video, I have a list of new horror books coming out in the month of March that I want to talk about and get excited about with you guys. I've like briefly read these synopsises, but mostly I'm going to be hearing about them for the first time with you guys. So in this video, I'm going to go over the synopsis and my thoughts. So let's go ahead and get right into it. The first book to talk about is called Nameless Things by Ernest Jensen. This one is set to be released on March 25th. In the aftermath of a painful breakup, Mike and his friend Wade seek solace in the remote beauty of 𝚲𝙃𝙽𝙽 State Park, Colorado. Their quest for peace is abruptly ended when a meteor strike causes a rock slide, trapping them and a group of campers within the ancient volcanic caldera. As they grapple with their new reality, a far more sinister challenge emerges from the depths of the earth. I really like that this is going to be set in a national park. I think that like a forest setting is really interesting for a horror book. Either the character is getting lost in the forest or like some type of creature is chasing them through the forest. I just think that is a super interesting setting. And then a meteor strike causes a rock slide, trapping them and a group of campers within the ancient volcanic caldera. So that is going to be like very high stakes. It's a bit like a locked room thriller where we're only going to have this like very specific cast of characters as they are trapped in this very perilous situation, have to somehow find their way out of it. So I really like horror books that have like a small cast of characters like that, or it's like a locked room thriller. Something happened with this meteor strike that caused a rock slide, and now there's something more sinister that is emerging from the depths of the earth. So that sounds like it's gonna have like a creature feature moment, and I think that's really fun. So this is like a survival horror. Yes. I like survival horror, okay? Where people are like trapped in these perilous environments. It could be the forest, it could be like a snowstorm, but where they have to somehow survive the circumstance, and like the scary thing is the circumstance. Like the scary thing is the weather outside, and that is what is going to kill them. In a thrilling fight for survival, Mike's journey to escape and reveal the nightmare within 𝚲𝙃𝙽𝙽 becomes a testament to the human spirit's resilience against the unknown. Overall, I think this one sounds really fun, and I am excited to check that one out. The next book to talk about is called Rekt by Alex Gonzalez, and this one is set to be released on March 25th. A disturbing examination of toxic masculinity and the darkest pits of the internet. Alex Gonzalez's Rekt traces a young man's algorithmic descent into depravity in a future that's nearly here. Once Sammy Dominguez thought he knew how the world worked. The ugly things in his head, his uncle's pathetic death, his parents' mistrust, the twisted horrors he writes for the internet didn't matter because he and his girl 𝚲𝚃𝙃 were on track for the good life in this messed up world. Then a car accident changed everything. Spiraling with grief and guilt, Sammy scrambles for distraction. He finds it in shock value videos of gore and violence that terrified him as a child. When someone messages him a dark web link to footage of 𝚲𝚃𝙃 dying, he watches. First the car crash that killed her, then hundreds of other deaths, even for people still alive. As Sammy watches compulsively, the darkness in his mind blooms. So this one is tagged with horror and science fiction. So this is going to be a horror story about the internet. A disturbing examination of toxic masculinity and the darkest pits of the internet. Oof. I feel like reading about toxic masculinity can be triggering to me. Like it just makes me really angry, and I really hate feeling angry. Don't love that. But I know there's important conversations to be had around it. So maybe this one does still sound interesting to me. A young man's algorithmic descent into depravity. That sentence is like, what? Like, what's going to happen? This one feels like it could be real, like it's touching on subject matter like that feel like they could be real. Like this website sending him these creepy videos that leads him into a virtual nightmare. Like that sounds real. I am intrigued by this one. I'm not 100% sold, but I think overall it sounds interesting. I could see myself starting it. It sounds like it would be really tense. So I am interested in checking that one out, and it's set to be released on March 25th. The next book to talk about is called Root Rot by Saskia Nislow. This is a horror novella, and it is set to be released on March 25th. Only 142 pages. 9 children travel with their families to their grandfather's vacation property, where strange things begin to happen. Eyes blink from the bottom up, mushrooms ooze blood, people's faces don't hang right anymore, except they do once you look more closely. Transformations warp the children's sense of time and place, the very land itself seeming to encroach upon them. Root Rot explores predatory family dynamics, the boundaries of bodies and home, and how individuals choose to participate in or push back against structures that would harm them. Ooh, so this is giving like cult vibes. Oh, cults can be triggering for me. Nowhere in there does it say that it's about a cult, but it's giving me vibes that it could be. Definitely gonna have some mushroom horror in there, which I love. I think a lot of us love mushroom horror. Sorry, I'm still so tickled at the whole concept of mushroom horror. I think that Root Rot sounds really interesting, and I would like to check that one out when it comes out on March 25th. The next book to talk about is The Memory Ward by Bassoff. The Memory Ward is a haunting Russian doll of a novel about one man's attempt to discover what's real and what isn't. A disquieting page-turner that examines the nature of identity, trauma, and what it means to be human. They say it's always beautiful in Bethlehem, Nevada, no place you'd rather live. That people are friendly if a little nosy, but there's no crime to speak of. Life is pretty perfect. But postal worker Hank Davies has started to suspect something is off in this idyllic little town. And he's certain of that when he realizes the letters he's been delivering are just blank pages. Okay, I think that sounds interesting. It's reminding me of The Truman Show, where we have this guy who's like a postal worker, and he realizes one day that all the letters he's been delivering are just blank pages. Like, what is his life? What is going on? That reminds me of The Truman Show. So I think that sounds really interesting. A haunting Russian doll of a novel about one man's attempt to discover what's real and what isn't. So we might be having some like delusions and some questioning about his reality, which is always something that I would like to read about. I think that this book sounds really interesting. I'm excited for it, and it's set to be released on March 4th. The next book to talk about is called Nowhere by Allison Gunn, a spine-tingling and twisty debut about a series of disappearances in a small fundamentalist town and what one broken family must do to remain together as dark forces close in. After losing her young son in an accident, Rachel Kennan throws herself into her career as police chief of a small Virginia town to avoid focusing on her grief. At the same time, a disturbing crime rocks their tight-knit religious community, sending Rachel chasing leads in a place that does not take kindly to outsiders. A haunting family saga and a disquieting horror debut, Nowhere draws from Appalachian folklore to caution us that true terror is what we bury in our own hearts. I want to know more, I want to know what that means. It gives me ideas. I think that book sounds pretty good. It sounds like it's going to be a folk horror and have small town atmosphere to it. This book is set to be released on March 25th. The next book to talk about is called The Haunting of Room 904, and that is by Erika T. Wurth. I read another book from this author, White Horse. I know I rated it a 3-star, but I don't have a lot of memories from it. The Haunting of Room 904 is a paranormal thriller that is as edgy as it is heartfelt and simmers with intensity and longing. Olivia was never supposed to have the gift. The ability to commune with the dead was the specialty of her sister. When her sister unexpectedly dies, in under strange circumstances, somehow Olivia suddenly can't stop seeing and hearing from spirits. As the past and the present collide, Olivia's investigation forces her to confront a mysterious and possibly dangerous cult, a vindictive journalist, betrayal by her friends, and shocking revelations about her sister's secret life. So I would definitely give this author another try. I think a 3-star isn't a terrible rating. So if I rated White Horse a 3-star, then that probably means it was good but not amazing. So I think her track record with me is all right. Let's see if a book by her can get to a 4 or a 5. It is set to be released on March 18th. The next book to talk about is called Blood on Her Tongue by Johanna van Veen. This is tagged as horror, gothic, historical fiction, vampires. It's been a while since I read a good vampire book. Like, when was the last good vampire book? The last vampire book I read was So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison, and I just really did not like that book at all. Oh, Carmilla! Carmilla was the last good vampire book I read. And that wasn't that long ago. That was like maybe a year ago. Needless to say, I feel like I'm due a good vampire book. Lucy's twin sister Sarah is unwell. She refuses to eat, mumbles nonsensically, and is increasingly obsessed with a centuries-old corpse recently discovered on her husband's grand estate. The doctor has diagnosed her with temporary insanity caused by a fever of the brain. To protect her twin from a terrible fate in a lunatic asylum, Lucy must unravel the mystery surrounding her sister's condition. But it's clear her twin is hiding something. Then again, Lucy is harboring secrets of her own too. Then the worst happens. Sarah's behavior takes a turn for the strange. She becomes angry and hungry. Lucy soon comes to suspect that something is trying to possess her beloved sister. Or is it madness? As Sarah changes before her very eyes, Lucy must reckon with the dark, monstrous truth or risk losing her forever. Oh my gosh. Okay, that really just sparked my interest so much. I think that sounds fantastic. So I will be checking this one out this year, and this one is set to be released on March 25th. The next book to talk about is called Gothic Town by Emily Carpenter. A restaurateur lured by pandemic-era incentives moves her family to a seemingly idyllic town in Georgia. The email message that lands in Billy Hope's inbox seems like a gift from the universe. For $100, she can purchase a spacious Victorian home in Juliana, Georgia, a small town eager to boost its economy in the wake of the pandemic. She can leave behind her cramped New York City rental and some painful memories. Plus, she'll get a business grant to open a new restaurant in a charming riverside community laden with opportunity. After some phone calls and one hurried visit, Billy and her husband and daughter are officially part of the Juliana initiative. The town is everything promised, and between settling into her lavish home and starting a new restaurant, Billy is busy enough to dismiss misgivings. Yet those misgivings grow. There's something about Juliana, something off-kilter and menacing beneath its famous southern hospitality. No matter how much Billy longed for her family to come here, she's starting to wonder how and whether they'll ever leave. That sounds claustrophobic. Like, set in this town where everything seems so perfect, so idyllic, kind of like we talked about with the book earlier, The Memory Ward. Everything seems like it's perfect in this town, but then you start noticing like little things that make you uncomfortable, like little red flags, and eventually you really want to leave, but for some reason they feel like they can't leave. Like they're trapped there. And I like the cover imagery too of like beautiful roses, but mostly you see the thorns at the bottom of them. And it's kind of like you're trapped by like the beauty of it traps you, and then you're like got the thorns in your hands and it's too late. Okay, I think Gothic Town sounds really interesting. It's getting my brain working. That one is set to be released on March 25th. Okay, the last book to talk about is called The Unworthy by Agustina Bazterrica, and this was translated by Sarah Moses. The long-awaited new novel from the author of the global sensation Tenders of Flesh, a thrilling work of literary horror about a woman cloistered in a secretive, violent religious order, while outside the world has fallen into chaos. A searing dystopian tale about climate crisis, ideological extremism, and the tidal pull of our most violent, exploitative instincts. I'm worried about this one because I feel like it's going to be really triggering. If it's about climate crisis, ideological extremism, those two things alone are going to make me super frustrated and like sad and upset. So I feel like this book is going to be very triggering and I'm not going to be ready for it. I would still like to give it a try though. Even if it might be triggering, I think it still sounds like it could be interesting. Oh, and it's really short. It's 192 pages. So this one is tagged as horror, dystopia, science fiction, LGBT. All that stuff sounds super interesting to me. So I do want to give this one a try. I'll just have to be conscious if it's triggering, I might not be able to finish it. I think that all of those books sounded very interesting. Let's see, which one was I most excited for? I thought Nameless Things sounded really interesting about the group of campers that get stuck in this rock slide. That sounds like super high stakes. Root Rot was really interesting because of the mushroom horror. Love that. Oh, Blood on Her Hands, the vampire story. I think that one sounds really good. And maybe Gothic Town. Yeah, Gothic Town also interested me. I would love a good gothic book. Oh, yes, give that to me. But that is all of the books I had to talk about in this video. If you guys have heard of any of these books before, if you're planning on checking out any of these books in this coming month or the rest of the year, let me know. I would love to talk about it. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.